How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Ride or Die, America's most dangerous and provocative vlogging series. Yeah. Like to ride around, talk about what's on my mind. So I had some interactions on Twitter today. I'm not a big Twitter person, like in terms of like actively using it. You go in there, you make some jokes, make some comments, you get a couple likes, everyone, boost that ego up a little bit. You just do out there doing God's work, really, for yourself, because there is no God. And I talk a lot about movies with people. That's generally what I do on Twitter. I've even built a little small following of people that will comment and like, and we'll chit-chat every once in a while. But I don't really like the opinions of a lot of people that I interact with, which is fine. I don't need people to conform to my concept of cinema or what I think is good cinema. I'm not like that. I'm not one of these goons. These guys kind of are, though. And it made me think of the era of the film bro is over. It's done. The era of the film brah has arrived. We are in the midst of it. I didn't even realize that we had some sort of shift like this. I was shocked. I was kind of shocked. And a lot of it is because these guys, a lot of them are very pseudo-intellectual. They'll take long roads to get to very simple places. And it's a lot of flowery prose and whatnot, as much as you can on Twitter. And I'm not saying, listen, I'm a long-winded motherfucker. As you know, if you follow this channel, if you've even seen some of these vlogs, they're a little bit too long-winded. In fairness to the film bros. But that's what it is. It's a lot of shallow posturing, a lot of contrarianism, a lot of worship of guys that are really good aestheticists as well. This is the thing I noticed the most. Okay, so there's a lot of people that are big fans of Mick G, director of the Charlie's Angels movies and Terminator Salvation. That's a god to them. Zack Snyder. Oh, he's Papa Snyder to them. He's you don't fuck around with Zack Snyder. These people go to the mat. When that trailer for the Zack Snyder's cut of Justice League came out, one of these spurgs went frame by frame and just found something to project into it, because that's really what it is. I like Zack Snyder. I've defended Zack Snyder. I've even defended lately Mick G's work. The first Charlie's Angels, whether you like it or not, is kind of a weird pop masterpiece that did usher in an entirely new era of filmmaking and filmmaking style and film language. It's kind of fucking nuts when you really start to think about it. Just the way a story would be told and constructed, and the visual symmetry of it. There are impressive things. Mick G, and it's the music video director thing. When they started making feature films writ large, from kind of the late 90s pop era, those guys started making movies. Because in those music videos, they're not going for cinematic. They were going for their own thing. And when that translated to the feature film length stuff, it could be interesting at the very least. But the thing is, like I said, these guys are master aestheticists. That's what they are. They're not good storytellers. Not really. They tell very two-dimensional stories. Very simple, easy to understand. Even somebody like Snyder, who these guys think he's the deepest motherfucker ever to live. And like I said, I like Zack Snyder. I'll go to bat for BVS. But his stuff is really kind of dumb. For Zack Snyder, something to be deep is to do something have Clark Kent sitting in a church in a tortured moment while the agony in the garden on a fucking window glass is behind him. That's Zack Snyder being deep, And I think some of that hollowness allows these guys to just project whatever they want onto the movie. It suddenly becomes about their ideology. It's weird. It's almost like the kind of the woke movie critic crowd, it's like the other side of it. Because the guys that I tend to follow, they seem like they're younger. It seems like they're in their 20s, some of them. I know some of them are much older, but some of them are kind of young. They seem more like right-leaning, probably libertarian types. You know, I attract the best. What can I say? And so they just want to see their ideology, their beliefs reflected back at them, whether it's there or not. Now, I mean, Zack Snyder is kind of a libertarian dude, kind of a closeted libertarian guy. I believe he wants to direct an adaptation of The Fountainhead. I think that's the next thing he's doing after this zombie movie he's doing. And of course, the Snyder Cut. But they just want that. They're grasping for it because Hollywood and the system and even independent cinema does not give you a lot of avenues if you're that type of person to enjoy a story like that. That's kind of more geared towards you. You know, not everybody's like S. Craig Zoller. And that's not even like S. Craig Zoller directed Dragged Across Concrete, Brawl in Cell Block 99. You could say his films are more conservative leaning. They feel more right leaning, but he's not making a value judgment on his characters. That's just how he likes to write. I have no idea what the politics of Zoller are, and I don't care. And I don't ever want to know, to be honest with you. But yeah, so they really want that. They want that really bad. So they go to these guys that are kind of these shallow aestheticists, and then it just becomes whatever they want. Like some guy was talking about 3:10 to Yuma, the James Mangold movie with Russell Crowe and Christian Bale, and how the story was deeply Catholic. I mean, that's, you can have your own personal interpretation. I'm all for that. I think that is the best thing about art, right? Art is about catharsis. And whatever the artist's intent is, it kind of doesn't matter once it's out in the public sphere. Then it kind of gets to be about that. I mean, and this is the fun of film criticism, right? You can kind of try to suss it out in the same way that, like, criticizing literature and reading books and story criticism, all that kind of stuff is all kind of that springs from that same well. There is kind of the objective understanding, and then there's the subjective side to it. And I can respect and appreciate that. But these guys, they take their subjective notions about what they're watching and what's going on, and then they're kind of just like dicks about it. They're just kind of dicks about it. I was talking to some dude today. Like I said, did some Twitter thing today. And Delroy Lindo, right? He was fantastic in Spike Lee's Da 5 Bloods. Not a great movie, admittedly, but Delroy Lindo fucking knocks it out of the park. No questions asked. And he's put up for an Oscar, or they're going to start an Oscar campaign for him. So I retweet the article. I say, fuck yeah, he's the best part of this kind of not great movie. This messy movie, I think I called it. And he's like... he said something that was like, I knew that Spike was going to make the MAGA black guy the scoundrel of his piece. I couldn't stand it. Something like that. Some sort of proclamation. And I was like, yeah, I mean, like, I think it got kind of cartoony. I think it was fair to a point that the character becomes a cartoon character at some point and it stops being interesting. But and I was like, oh, and he gives a monologue direct to camera, like Shakespearean style. Delroy Lindo does in the jungle when he's kind of at this really low moment, but he's too fucking stubborn to acknowledge it and just has to double down on his bullshit. And it's an incredibly well acted, cool scene. And I was just like, yeah, but that monologue direct to camera was pretty keynote. And he comes back with like direct to camera is for YouTube. I was like, that's some like Spike Lee invented this. Like, this hasn't been around since like literally silent film era. It's an invention of YouTube. And I have a feeling the dude was kind of younger. And I was like, yeah, dude, like Shakespearean kind of drama, direct to camera monologues for YouTube. Yeah, okay, buddy. I guess it's no Mick G. And like, it's just, I think, when you have an interpretation of a piece of art, or if you think your interpretation is right, you should be able to back it up with some kind of evidence. Go in there with, like, do a textual analysis. Bring me the pieces to make your case, right? We do that on Zoobox Goes to the Movies occasionally. We don't always, me and the guests that are on, we don't always see everything exactly the same, and we try to make our case a little bit, right? It's not a debate, but it's a fun conversation. These people, there is nothing in the text to support what the fuck they're talking about sometimes. You know, it's just, or if it's there, it's so overt that it's almost like not worth mentioning. The Zack Snyder stuff is kind of crazy to me, just because it's so sycophantic. So sycophantic. A lot of Spanish dudes, a lot of Mexican guys, like, love fucking Zack Snyder. Love everything he's done. Even after I talked to this kid, or this guy, I have no idea how old he is. Maybe it's a girl, I don't know. Goes by Walter. An hour later, retweeting and putting in this thing for 300 4K, which is not going to look good, just because of the way the movie's made with the green screen and CGI and stuff. But he's like, everybody should pre-order this now. Respect to Snyder. Papa Snyder getting that 4K treatment. I don't know. I just think it's a weird place that, like, film criticism is moving into, is where people make arguments against no one. Actually, I had a weird interaction with an actual writer, New York Times best-selling author. She wrote this article about how people don't like to be uncomfortable in their movies, in relative to the film Cuties. If you don't know what Cuties is, you can go look it up. A lot of drama surrounding Cuties. We covered it on Zoobox Goes to the Movies. I brought a lady on to get the lady's perspective. And we had a good, thorough conversation about it. But, yeah, she wrote this article, and that was, like, people don't want to be uncomfortable. It's like, I have not heard this argument, I haven't seen this argument. Seems a little bit like projection. I think you're making up an enemy that doesn't exist. And then she like, spurred down on me. With, like, oh, well, I stand up for cinema, and I like to be uncomfortable, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, I don't care. That's not what I said. It's not you're not having an interesting conversation. There's so many interesting things to talk about when it comes to something like Cuties that, I don't know. I mean, film criticism is largely dead because it's owned, like, the mainstream guys, they're all Arrested Development man-children that fucking love superheroes and Star Wars, and they're just so happy that they can do nothing but talk about that shit forever and ever and ever, because it's what they did when they were 8. And they project just like these other guys, like these film bras, okay? They just see whatever the fuck they want to see in it. It's very frustrating as, like, you know, as the cool fucking fence-sitting milquetoast centrist film fan over here. It's very frustrating, you know? Trying to, like, I should probably start wearing my beanie in these videos so I can fucking get some of that beanie energy. Become the Tim Pool of of movie vlogging in my car. Get that money. So just, yeah, I guess that's really all I have to say. That's a little longer than I thought I was going to go on, but, you know, a little longer ride than normal. Gotta go across state lines to go to a liquor store after 7 o'clock. In beautiful South Carolina. Gotta head to Georgia. Can you believe it? Yeah, I don't know. That was just kicking around in my head. I don't know if it really made much sense, to be honest with you. You know, so you just have these kind of disparate thoughts that you're thinking to yourself, and you don't get to vocalize them. You don't say them out loud. So you're like, I don't know if this argument actually makes sense. It sounds good in my brain. Maybe that's what a lot of these guys, all sides of film criticism, maybe that's, like, really the issue, is that they're all, like, lonely autists that sit around and think about things and then write quips on Twitter without any substance, and then don't actually know if their arguments hold up to scrutiny whatsoever. That might be part of it, you know? I would have sympathy for that to a certain degree. Listen, I feel bad for the Spurg, okay? I feel bad for the incel. I could have been one. You know? I'm a what do you call it? I'm very introverted in some ways, you know? I'm a homebody, you know? All right, everybody, go fuck yourself.